Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. Pretty cool show lined up as always. But as we always must do, let's get a lot of that housekeeping out of the way real quick. First off, our website is thebarbarianlounge.com. Go there, check it out. A lot of good stuff up on there. I'm actually personally doing some articles right now that I'm looking to post up on the site. So we'll see how those play out. I got to go through the editing process and everything. It's something that's basically going to be like one of those things I'm going to have to sit down and actually take the time to gather all my thoughts together and get it situated correctly. That's just the type of person I am. Especially when it comes to writing an article, I like to make sure I've got all my thoughts in line, and topping it on top of the 1 million things that I have to do every week. Sometimes that tends to fall on the wayside, but I'm working on those, and we've also had some people submitting articles as well, so you could check those out. You can check out the articles that are already on there. It's funny, some of the articles I have posted, some of them are. The last one I posted from my buddy Brandon Turbyville, who I hope to have on the show very soon. He's been going overseas and actually seeing a lot of the stuff that's been going on over there in Syria, and I think that he will offer some really good insight into some things here on the show. I'm looking to get him on very soon to discuss some of those things. But he wrote an article back in August about the Antifa training over there. And I remember when I brought this up to people a while back, they kind of laughed at it, like, oh yeah, whatever, ha ha ha. But it's actually happening, and people are actually starting to report on it now after he reported and gave me permission to use the article, and we reported it here all the way back in August. And everybody's like, oh, have you heard this? I'm like, yeah, it's like 2 months old if you're checking the website out. So keep track of those articles from the Barbarian Lounge on our website there. Also, you can check out our store. There's a lot of cool items in there. Our Thuggy Strangulation Cord. A lot of people have been getting those. I know some people who travel in some, let's just say, less than savorable areas for work or for whatever it may be, and they need a nice little covert weapon to kind of have on their person just in case. And here at the Barbarian Lounge, we are big on making strangulation great again. So go there, check it out, get yourself a custom-made Thuggy Strangulation Cord, and trust me, we've gotten a lot of good reviews from the people who have tried them out. And like I said, I tried one on a gentleman he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he wanted to check it out, and I applied the choke with the Thuggy cord, and he tapped really quick, and he looked at me and said, wow, that was an experience. So if you want to find out the experience, pick one up yourself. Every single purchase of one of those Thuggy Strangulation cords goes to help support the broadcast. So please check it out there at the barbarianlounge.com store. While you're there, I also urge you to check out our donate button. If you click on that button, you'll find several options to help support the show, one of which is a one-time PayPal donation. It's exactly as it sounds. You click it, bang, one-time PayPal donation saying thank you. The other option you can use, which is a recommended option, is to use our Patreon account. You click on that Patreon account, that is our member site. By doing that, you will basically be doing a donation on a per-show donation. If you do the minimum amount, which most people are doing around $2 and up, but if you decide to go the bare minimum of $1 per episode, it will cost you a total of $8 a month to help support this broadcast. Every single red cent that comes in on this show absolutely helps keep us running. I cannot stress that enough. If you listen to my episode on Support the Fight that I put out a couple weeks ago, definitely laid it all out on the line right there about some of the stuff that podcasters and people that are in this movement. We are a movement that is supported by the people. And if the people are not there, then the movement is going to die. Plain and simple. If the people are not there providing support to the people on the front lines, we will eventually get overrun. So we are in desperate need of your support. So please go there, become a member, $8 a month. We do 4 regular shows that you get early, that everybody hears. You also get 4 exclusive broadcasts only available to members. There's over 40 exclusive members-only broadcast shows there, so go there and check them out. A couple of members asked something about our older content that got wiped in the hack attack that we suffered this year, and I'm looking to get those re-uploaded there, so please stand by to get those here. So please just stand by with me. It's a lot of shows that got wiped. So I will do my best to get those up and running. Also, check out our sponsors, OdinsonArchery.com, traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. A lot of, right now, we're in the moment for Odinson Archery. We're at a moment where Christmas time is approaching, and the docket starts filling up. So if you want to get your orders in, now is the time to do it. There's also some things that are coming out on the horizon before December that are probably going to be one of those guaranteed to get a lot of orders coming this way. So you guys need to get your orders in if you want to get those items before Christmas. All right, so check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. You do not have to break the bank to get into the world of archery. Odinson Archery provides the way for people to join the Brotherhood of the Bow and not have to completely empty their wallet out to do so. That's our goal. Our goal is the love of archery and getting a bow in every hand. Allow us to do that for you. Check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. Our other sponsor, Mitacon, my boy Ben. Mitacon, I'm going to read my little liner here. Mitacon with a proper diet supports the cell's fastest, most effective absorption of natural nutrients in each 250 milliliter bottle and sustains the body's mitochondria generation of usable energy, key to producing ATP, the energy-rich fuel the body needs to achieve peak athletic strength, performance, endurance, and recovery. MitaconUSA.com. And if you check it out, I'm going to be posting a link up. Right now, Mitacon is doing an Indiegogo, like a funding thing right now. They're a startup company, a small company that took a risk on this show, and I know we've sent a good bit of business their way, and I want you guys to check out that link. I'm going to add it in the, it'll be attached on the, I'll probably put it up on the website probably later this week. I'll also post it on the Barbarian Lounge Facebook page, which is another way you can follow, so go there and give it a like if you haven't. But go to that Indiegogo thing, and you'll be able to just throw a little bit of support their way. If you don't have the money to support it, by all means, share it. Doesn't cost anything to click share. Doesn't cost anything to click like. That is your way of saying, I don't have the money to support you, but here, let me be a commercial for you. All right? It's not a lot. And people just like, well, I don't have the money to support it. Support just doesn't mean throwing cash that way. Support is also sharing things. All right, share, a like. It doesn't cost much. So check them out. Check out MitaconUSA.com. When you talk to my boy Ben, tell him Alan Odinson sent you. Also, you can check Barbarian Lounge out on iTunes, Stitcher, and all those other wonderful platforms there, as well as UCY.TV. Alrighty. So, what's the meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about today? I'm going to tell you something, guys. Complete disclaimer right here. I don't know particularly how long this broadcast is going to go today. I have absolutely jack shit written down in front of me. A lot of times I don't script my show out, which you can probably obviously tell by listening to me talk. I don't talk like somebody who scripts their words. But a lot of times I at least kind of write out a guideline that it keeps me in line so I don't drift off and just kind of start blabbering about things. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. I have zero sitting in front of me right now. Zero. I have my cell phone that I have one little thing I want to read. But other than that, I'm just letting it fly. All right, so the topic I wanted to talk about today was something that I just kind of, I say just experienced. I did just experience it, but it's also something that I've experienced in the past. And luckily enough, these lessons keep rolling around and slapping me in the face when I don't pay them attention. They have a tendency, and that's the thing. Is they say like insanity is doing the same thing every time and expecting a different result. The reality is that if we ignore these lessons that come our way, perhaps the consequence of not learning that lesson was free this time. It didn't cost you anything. But in the future, that same lesson that you failed to listen to may end up slapping you in the face. It may be costly. Who knows what it may cost you? It may cost you your job. It may cost you a heap of money, may cost you your reputation. You never know. But the most important thing is learning to adhere to those lessons. So what am I talking about? As you guys know, if you've been following me recently, I have been very, very, very much engrossed in the world of poker, particularly No Limit Texas Hold'em. And I play online. I've got like 3 different online places that I play, but I also play live at times as well with some undisclosed Barbarian Lounge location games. And I've said this before, like a lot of people when they think of poker, they think of it being a game of chance, right? It's a game of chance. You know, you get whatever comes in, whatever comes, and you know, whatever cards get dealt, that's what happens. And in a way that is true, but there's a lot more elements of strategy that people don't understand. Being somebody who has played both, I believe that if you compare chess to poker, I believe that poker is the greatest strategy game probably ever. Just because of the fact of what has, like when you're playing chess, obviously I'm sure a lot of you have played chess or at least know what chess is. The entire board is exposed to you. You see the entire game that's being played out in front of you. If you pay attention and think several moves ahead, you can see everything that your opponent is doing if you have the eyes to see it. In poker, there's always an element of chance, which is the same in life. Life is the same way. You can do every single thing right and think you've got everything figured out, but there's always that unknown. There's always that unknown. So there's a lot of subtle things that have to be done to gather information throughout the hand. And a lot of people don't really get that. And it's funny. I may do a show on this eventually. I would love to get actually some of these professional players on, like some of the big name guys, and discuss different aspects of lifestyle in poker, because I'm telling you, the more I play, the more I understand, and it gives me an application of some of the concepts that we talk about in a different way. Like we talk about, you've heard us talk a lot about the Sayoc concept of be the feeder. Be the feeder, be the feeder. Every time you play poker, if you play it correctly, you really have the chance to practice that concept in real time with other people. And while you're not feeding them with violence per se, as opposed to say like punching them, kicking them, or fighting them with some sort of weapon or whatever it may be, you're still pushing the action. You're fighting them with bets. You're fighting them with bluffs. You're fighting them with checks. There's a lot of different things that goes into the play that a lot of people don't see. So it's important to understand that when I talk about this concept that I'm getting ready to discuss, it's important to understand all the different intricacies that go into the game itself. And granted, I know if a lot of you aren't players, that might be like, well, I'm not going to go through the intricacies. Trust me, you don't have to know the specific intricacies to understand what I'm saying, because I'm going to apply this to a lot of different things. I posted several statuses and whatnot of life knowledge and poker lessons and life knowledge, or something to that effect. And I don't think a lot of people get it exactly what I'm saying, probably because they're not players. But there's a lot of deep insight into a lot of those things. And these aren't things I've copied from somewhere. These are things that I've experienced. So discussing something, what I want to talk about today mainly is an experience that I've went through on multiple occasions. And it still hasn't created enough of a scar. I think tonight probably, and I say tonight, I'm talking literally like 40 minutes ago. I think tonight actually did the punch in the gut that I needed to really let that scar sink in and really kind of understand exactly what what I need to learn here. So one of the things that has happened to me numerous times, I've played a lot of poker hands, and one of the things I found recently, and just for reference, whenever I'm playing poker, usually with friends, we bet odd objects. Okay, like instead of bringing chips, a lot of times we'll bring bullets. So your bullets are your chips. It's a good way to get some money or get some ammo, right? So a lot of times we will bet bullets. So that's pretty cool. Different bullets, different values and whatnot. So, and then sometimes it's playing for fun. Just a side note, playing poker for fun is really, at the end of the day, not really playing poker. It's you can understand the ABCs of it, but at the end of the day, if there's nothing at stake, it's really hard to get the intricacies of the game. Just like, for instance, if there's nothing at stake and people can just rebuy, like say they lose all their money and they can just click a button on the computer and get all their money back or get more money, it doesn't really hold the same. You don't make the same kind of decisions as if you were that was your rent money, right? So an experience I've had on multiple occasions is having what appears to be the most powerful position that I can possibly have on the table, only to see it crumble before me. And I'm going to give you an example of what I experienced. So I was playing with some individuals who are actually, they are what you would call inexperienced poker players. Whenever you play with an inexperienced player, they are actually, you would think, oh, it's like, well, they're inexperienced, so it's going to be, I'm just going to take all their money and everything. That's not the way it goes down. And I'll tell you why. Because of their inexperience, they will do things that are completely and utterly unorthodox of what you would be expecting. They play things that that a pro or someone who has played a lot with things at stake wouldn't play. So especially if you play when there's something at stake, when you play with somebody who is of this reckless nature, it's very, very difficult to gauge what they're going to do, because they'll do some wonky shit sometimes. All right. And so I'm playing, I get dealt the cards, and if you don't know the format of Texas Hold'em, basically everybody gets dealt 2 cards, and everybody bets, and then 3 cards come out, and you see what you can make out of that. Everybody bets again, 4th card comes out, everybody bets or folds, then a 5th card comes out, everybody bets, and then everybody sees who's got the highest hand, right? That's basically the meat and potatoes of it. So I get dealt in the hand, and what comes out? I have a pair of aces. A pair of aces is great, right? A pair of aces is the number 1 hand you can have just getting dealt right off the bat. There's nothing higher. And as the hand plays out, all the cards are coming out, and there's no pair on there that beats those aces. And I'm playing them very hard, The people that are playing me, they're calling, they're not really raised or anything like that, so it's not very threatening. And eventually it gets down to the end, cards flip, and aces beats, there's no pair that beats my aces. Yay for me. But what I didn't pay enough attention to was the fact that there were 3 diamonds. Well, I saw them. I saw there were 3 diamonds on the board. But the other person that stayed in the pot with me, they decided to play a hand that no experienced poker player would probably really play. May play it just for some shits and giggles, but it probably would have been folded after the flop. But especially with the way I was betting. But they played Queen 2. Queen 2 that actually had all the same suit. They were both diamonds. So they ended up winning the flush, even though I had the pocket aces. Actually, I had 2 aces, and there was a pair on the high pair, but still lost to the flush. The flush is a higher hand. So, and I say this for a reason. This has happened multiple times, where in a situation where I have, and it's not even just with, I'll get dealt like a pair of aces or something like that, and then like another ace will come up on those 3 cards. So I got 3 aces. I'm like, nobody's got that beat, and somebody will have, they'll create a flush or something out of it. And once you get so deep, you kind of don't really leave the pot, because it's like, I've got a super high hand here, And I've learned, and I've heard this concept before. I've learned more so than ever, that sometimes you get so drawn in to things that appear to be on the outside. You appear to have the game completely in control, and you lose all focus on exactly what you're there for. You lose all focus on the big picture. You get completely, almost emotionally involved in the fact of the excitement of the win, the excitement of the victory is at hand. Look at all those chips, look at all those rounds, those are all going to be mine. And you're ready for it. But then this happens, and it's all because you forgot that element of chance that was still there. You didn't pay attention to that element of chance. You drove all the way in. Me, I didn't drive all in, but I bet a shitload of chips on it, and the person returned in favor, and that they ended up getting the pot. And it was all because I was so emotionally invested in the fact that I had the biggest hand. Like I was going to win, and that one little element that I didn't take enough time to study ended up getting me in the end. So I have told, this has become a common concept around our house, or around the poker table we're playing. It's something I say all the time. It's pocket aces. And it's actually, there's several hands I say this for, but especially pocket aces. Pocket aces have been deemed in the poker tables of people that are around me when I'm talking to them about it. Pocket aces are what I would call your frozen lake. So you may say to yourself, if you're not familiar with the terminology of what a frozen lake is, maybe you've seen the whole thing with NCI. I think it was NCIS and all this stuff like that. That Sayoc actually. That's a Sayoc term. That's where I first heard it from. If they heard it from somewhere else, I don't know. First place I heard it from was from Sayoc, and it's the metaphor of the frozen lake. And I'm going to read you. If you don't know what the frozen lake is, I'm going to read it to you here. This is actually from the NCIS episode, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, your frozen lake is the name for what you want most in the world. And you want it. You want it so bad that you'll do anything to get it, and your heart takes over. But because of that, it destroys you in the end. It's right there, sitting in the middle of the frozen lake. And you think you're fast enough to go out there and grab it before the ice cracks. And what you don't realize is you're already standing on the ice, and it's falling apart around you. Plain and simple. When I use the concept, I tell people in the poker, I tell them, I say, pocket aces are my frozen lake. Or I actually even say pocket aces are a frozen lake. Because there's been many times where you've got that pair of aces and you look at the card and there's no card on the deck that beats you. But there's somebody that just happened to play, let's say that there's a 2, a 4, a 7, a queen, and a jack. Let's say that's what it is. Pretty much a garbage flop. Anybody pairs anything on there, you've got that beat. But let's say somebody decided to play 2-4. Well, they would win because they have 2s and 4s and all you've got is pocket aces. So, I found it with other players as well, and I see it, and I even call it when I'm watching. I'm like, there's your frozen lake, brother. You walked right out on your frozen lake. And that's exactly what it is. It looks so glorious. The win is right there, and you want that win so bad. You want those pocket aces to win so hard that you don't pay attention to that sneaky flush that's right there. And I'm not saying completely bail on it. I'm saying you approach very, very cautiously, and you really, truly think about if you wish to walk out on that frozen lake. And I've seen it happen numerous times, and the reason I've termed it as my frozen lake, especially for me, is that almost every time I've played it, something weird has happened like that. It's the same thing that happens with I find any of the big feeling hands, the big hands like pocket aces, which is 2 aces, 2 kings, 2 queens, 2 jacks. All those tend to be frozen lakes. You can think of all those people sitting out on the frozen lake. They're right in the middle of it. And man, you want them to win it so bad. But, if let's say you've got a pair of kings and those 3 cards come, which is called the flop. Those 3 cards come, and one of them's an ace. If there's somebody that decided to play ace 6, if it goes all the way to the end and nothing else comes up, well, guess what? They got you beat, right? Because you wouldn't let it go. You wanted it so bad, you drifted out on that frozen lake, and you didn't realize it. And by the time you realize that you're in a trap, let's say you get there to that final card comes out, that river card, the 5th card. It comes out, it hits there, and it's nothing. And you got your 2 kings. You're like, oh yeah, I'm getting ready to get paid. And you shove in, I don't know, half your chips or whatever. And then the other person who's been very, very they've just been calling or whatever, that very last thing, they raise you. Okay? Let's say you put in, let's just say for shits and giggles, you put in 50,000. We're going to pretend like we're all rich ballers, right? Let's say you put in 50,000. You're like, oh yeah, I'm getting ready to clean this guy out. And that guy who's been sitting there kind of timid, not really acting like he's got anything, as soon as you, in the very end, you go 50,000. And it goes to him and he has to make that bet. You're expecting him to call. Next thing you know, he says, raise you to 200,000. So that guy says raise you to 200,000. Now you have to call that bet. And at that point, that's the point where you realize you're already on the ice and the ice is cracking around you. Okay? That's the point you realize, because you look around and you go, oh shit, I've walked out. I should have noticed all the signs all along. I should have done some different tactics to gather information, but no. I pushed ahead and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. Pushed and pushed. Went at this completely emotionally, excited for the win, and all along I was just drifting further and further out to the middle of that frozen lake. And the ice starts cracking around you. You're already there. You're already there. You can't run back. You have to live with your decision. You got to go for it, right? And of course, at least in poker, there's always that element of chance. But a lot of times when that happens, I can assure you, from experience, you're toast. You're getting ready to go swimming, my friend. You're getting ready to drop right down in that cold water, and you're going to feel the cool embrace of Lady Death. So, I've learned more so than in any other thing I've ever done. By playing poker, I have learned to pay attention. I've learned to slow down. I've learned to completely analyze not only the cards that are on the deck, or that are on the flop and the turn of the river. Not only have I learned to check that spread out and check it very closely, but I've also learned to pay very close attention to everything that's going on around me. My opponent, the things he does, what do I do, what the people around me are doing, how is he betting, all these different things come into play. But when you get completely emotionally invested in what you have, thinking that you've got that victory and not realizing that the ice is cracking around you, that's when it gets you. And I will tell you from experience, it's gotten me multiple times. And some of the pros and the real grinders in the poker world that I've talked to, they've told me the same thing. They're like, man, you're doing good, but you have to cautiously approach them. And I think the real learning experience is really understanding where you're at and knowing when it's a good time to stop. When it's a good time to toss those cards and say, you know what, I've got these, but I'm going to have to let it go. And a lot of people can't do that. That's one thing I've definitely learned. You have to know exactly when the right time is to let it go. You do. And a lot of people can't do that. They get so invested and it's like, man, this is it. I'm going to win it with this. This is it. I've got the card. This is the one that's going to do it. And you don't realize the traps that you run into. And it's like, well, what if he's bluffing you? What if he is? That's absolutely possible. What if he is? There's different ways you can gather information to see if he is. But either way, at the end of it all, at the end of everything, whether you decide to march out on that frozen lake or not, it's up to you. You have to live with the decision you make. You have to live with the decision. If the ice cracks around you, you got to live with that. What are you going to do? A couple things can happen when you fall on that ice. You can drown. You can drown. You can panic. You can let that cool embrace of Lady Death wrap her cold, ice cold arms around you and give you a nice squeeze. You can do that, or you can fight to stay afloat. With every ounce of being you got, fight to get out. Get out of that frozen lake. Find yourself back up on the ice. Fight, and get back. Get back to the shoreline. Same thing happens in the world of poker. You get smashed with a bad beat. I'll give you a prime example. Prime example of me tonight. Got smashed with a bad beat. Really bad. With those pocket aces. Got crushed. And I still had a little bit of money left. I say money. I had chips. I still had a little bit of chips left. What did I do? Tightened up. I let the emotions out, come back in, and jump back at it. I ended up ahead in the end. I ended up about right at 200 ahead. So, that's getting everything back and then some. So I can deal with that, right? But the thing is what better time and what more practical application do you have in a game, at least, to learn how to take those shots, make a bad fucking decision because you walk down your frozen lake, but rather than drown, rather than get emotional, rather than just take a loss, oh shit, it's over with, I'm just gonna freak out, rather than do that, you get your shit together and you fight to get back out of that fucking hole. And that's what I did. Plain and simple. That's what I did. And a lot of people can't do that. And that's one of the things people don't understand about the whole world of poker. There's so many stories of guys getting smashed, getting completely smashed and coming back. I was reading a guy would actually, I don't know how good of an interview it would be because he's kind of awkward, but there's a poker pro by the name of Tom Dwan, and I've watched a lot of his stuff. He's very interesting, complete wild man, but reading some of the stories of these guys will, like Dwan built up a bankroll of, I think five? No, he built up a bankroll like 3.5 million. Okay, he built that up playing poker. And then, within a year's time, he lost, I think they said he lost 2 million. I think he was going to compete in the World Series, and he lost 2 million of that. Okay? Within 6 months, he built it back up again. 6 months. If you lost $2 million, if you had $3 million and you lost $2 million on a play, on a weekend, let's say you lost $2 million on a weekend, you would say, God, that guy's stupid. What a fucking idiot. Who in the world would do that? Yet, he got it all back in 6 months. Most of us won't see that much money in our lifetime. Yet this is an individual who could have crawled up in a hole and said, oh, woe is me, I've just got to quit this. I've walked out on my frozen lake, and that happens to these pros a lot of times. I watch a lot of professional poker, and these guys, they walk out on those frozen lakes a lot of times. They do. But the difference is they don't allow themselves to drown. They fight off that cold embrace of Lady Death, and they crawl out of that lake, warm themselves up, and then approach it smarter the next time, and come back even stronger. They say all you need to play is a chip and a chair, right? Give the guy a chip, give him a chair, and we'll see how it plays out. But a lot of people, they don't get that. They don't understand the mindset that has to go into that. I mean, most people can't find the way to make $1 million in their entire lifetime, right? Most people can't figure that shit out. But yet, these guys can lose 2 and get 2 back in 6 months. Imagine that. Imagine that. So you have to start think about that, how that compares to you. So I've talked about, like, the idea of the frozen lake in poker. So I've talked about the aces and how aces can do that. Another one for me that's a frozen lake is pocket jacks. If I get a pair of jacks, I'm like, oh shit. Which, ironically enough, my frozen lake actually saved me, actually is what helped me come out ahead in the end. Because those pocket jacks actually turned out pretty well against a monster hand, so it actually worked pretty good. But think about for yourself, just in general in life, think about the different frozen lakes you run into. There's a lot of them. A lot of people have different frozen lakes. And it's that moment where you're not logically thinking. It's the moment that you've lost all control. It's the moment that you want something. You want something to happen so bad. Like, oh man, this is it. You know, this is the person, a classic example. This is the person that I've wanted to be with my whole life. Oh, they're the greatest in the world. Yeah, they're a fuck up. Yeah, they can't keep a job. Yeah, you know, we've gone through some abuse in the past, but I think they can change. And I just really want this to work. You know, for the kids. How many times you hear that shit, right? How many times you heard that? That's a fucking frozen lake. They want it so bad they don't understand that everything around them is falling apart. It will destroy you in the end. It will destroy you. It happens with a lot of things. I see it in fighting a lot of times. I'll give you a good example. A classic example. Any of you jiu-jitsu practitioners, a classic example. Let's say, for instance, that I'm gonna use a submission. Let's say you go for a triangle on a guy. You know what a triangle is? It's basically where you've got their head and arm trapped in your legs, and your legs are in a figure four, and you've got them in a triangle. So I've seen this happen many times. Some of you may have even run into this. You got them in a triangle, and man, you've got it, right? You're like, oh, I've got this triangle, and you're squeezing, and nothing. They won't tap. They won't pass out. Somehow they've managed to find a way to keep their carotid artery from not getting completely shut off, and they're just hanging out there. And you're squeezing, you're trying your damnedest to put them out, and they just keep fighting through, and they're stuck in that fucking triangle forever, and it doesn't work. But you know, you're like, I've got the position, I got the arm here, I've got that, I'm pulling down the head, I got the angle, I've got everything. This is it. You've been taught in every single jiu-jitsu class that this is it. I've got the triangle. Here it goes. And you squeeze and you pull, and nothing. They just won't fucking tap. They just won't fucking go to sleep. Nothing will happen. And you'll squeeze, and before you know it, all that lactic acid is built up in your legs, and you burnt your legs out. Especially if you're talking about a fight, like a fight, say something that's got rounds, and then they make it to the end of the round. Then you get loose, and you start walking around, and you stand up, you go to your corner, and oh shit, my legs are burnt out. Then you don't have any legs for the rest of the fight, right? I'm sure a lot of you, especially some of you new guys in the jiu-jitsu world, you've probably tried to get a guillotine on a guy, right? And the guillotine is basically like the person is leaning over, and you've got your arm wrapped around their head, and you're squeezing them. You're squeezing their throat. Think about, like, if you were going to give somebody, any of you pro wrestling fans, if you were going to give somebody a DDT, instead of giving them the DDT like Jake the Snake Roberts, you just grab your hands and just squeeze their neck, and arch your hips in and try and submit them there or choke them unconscious. How many of you have tried to get a guillotine on somebody that you couldn't choke, and you just squeeze, and you got your legs wrapped around them, and you're squeezing, and you're just giving it everything you got, and before you know it, they won't tap, and you burned your arms out. That's your frozen lake. You wanted that so bad, but you know, because you've applied that submission to many, many people. You've applied it to many people. You've applied it in training. You know when you got it and when you don't. But you want it so bad. You want it so bad. You're like, I got it. I've got the submission. I've got it. I'm locking it in. Here it goes. They're going to tap. Oh, they're not tapping, and I'll just squeeze harder. Nope. And then before you know it, you look around, oh shit, the ice is cracking, and my arms are dead. And then you don't have any gas left. Seen it all the time. I've seen it. I've coached against it, man. I've told my guys, they'll be in there, they'll grab that head and squeeze. Another classic example from the world of fighting is when somebody tries to take you down, or even jiu-jitsu, they try and take you down, and you pass their legs, right? So if you don't understand this jiu-jitsu talk, I mean, guys, I'm sorry, you need to take jiu-jitsu. So let's say that they take you down, and you got your arm wrapped around their head as they take you down, right? Like, for those of you who don't know takedowns, let's say they tackle you, right? They tackle you, and you wrap your arm around their head as you're falling. Well, as you fall to the ground, they hop to your side. So when you've got your arm wrapped around their head, pretend that they're laying cross chest on you, so their legs would be to your left side, and you've got their head held with your right arm, right? Their legs on the left side of your body, and you're basically laying on the ground in a T position. Okay, with you on the bottom holding their head. So a lot of people got in the habit of doing that, and they think to themselves, if I can just hold their head here, they can't lift their head up and they can't do anything to me. But there's a technique called a Von Flue choke, where, a matter of fact, just recently in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Oven St. Preux submitted, actually he choked him completely unconscious, Yushin Okami with this. Same thing. And basically what happens is there's a way to choke somebody. It's going to be difficult to explain over the air without you actually seeing it. So just look up Von Flue, F-L-U-E, Von Flue choke, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But people won't let go of that head when they hit the ground. They just want to hold on to it. That's their frozen leg, because what they don't realize is that will be the element of their undoing. They will get choked unconscious in a position where once the position gets applied to them for the Von Flue choke, they can't let go of the head now. It's like, you want to hold my head? Well, motherfucker, there it is. You got it. Now you're going to go to sleep. All right? So it's very important to look around us in our lives at the things that are a frozen lake, the things that look so good, so enticing, that we want them so bad, but we're willing to just drag ourselves down further and further and further and make the wrong decisions when all the evidence shows us that we should be doing something else. I see it with people a lot of times in life in general, with career choices. People will get bogged down in a career. Bogged down. They hate it. They hate getting up and going to work. Man, maybe there's somebody's dangling a carrot for some kind of promotion in the future, which they never fucking get. And they just keep doing it, and slowly but surely years are ticking away off people's lives. But they want it so bad. It's like, man, if I could just get here, if I could just reach that carrot that's hanging down, if I could just get it, that golden ticket, that's all I need. But all along the way, they're making poor decisions, not based off of what's logical for them to do, not based off what's the best route for their family, for their future, for the legacy they want to leave behind. The whole time, they're chasing that golden carrot. They're chasing those pocket aces. They're chasing them, saying, man, this is it. This is it. And all the while, they did not pay attention to the ice crumbling around them. They did not pay attention to the possibility of that flush that's going to push them out the pot and make them lose everything just because they failed to study that spread carefully, to slow down, view the world all around you. Think about, like, especially in our modern society with everybody, stuck in cell phones, and people get very, very tunnel visioned on things, and they don't plan things out. They don't think stuff out enough. Those people like that will constantly be in the place that they are right now. They are. That most of them will live a miserable life. Most of them will not lead a productive life. But the true people, the people who are really out there, the movers and shakers, the people that are changing the world, the people that are striving towards success, those people are the ones that understand this concept of a frozen lake. This is the thing I want to stress to you. I'm not saying at any point will you ever not have a frozen lake. You absolutely will. It's one of the advantages of having tribe. It's one of the advantages of having brothers. It's one of the advantages of being close with your family, who want to keep their mouths shut when they see you drifting out on a frozen lake. They're the ones that will look at you and say, "Hey, man, walking out on your frozen lake here." And when they say that, you need to take a good fucking look at what's going on around you. Somebody says that to you that's close to you, if you understand this concept, I know in the Sayoc world, man, somebody says that shit, it's like, okay, I need to take a fucking step back and see what's going on. I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to analyze what's going on right now. But most people don't understand these things. They don't get it. And I think it's important for us to be able to recognize those things in our lives that control us from an emotional standpoint. And I'm not saying be emotionless, but I'm talking about see everything. Don't be driven by your emotions. That's what happens to a lot of people, is they get driven. That's what happens when people get dealt good hands in poker. A lot. People are like, man, I've seen it. I'll give you a classic example, playing online poker. And I wait for people like this. Is, the hands will come around and everybody get dealt, and a guy will get he'll get a pair of kings, and he'll go yeah, I'm gonna go all in. So he'll go all in, and he'll push all of his money in the middle of that pot, right? And it's almost like the middle of that table is the frozen lake, right? It is. They want that money so bad, and they push it out there, and they just know. They're like, yeah, I've got this. And I've seen many, many a times where they'll get called, and they'll flip it over, and they're like, yeah, I got a pair of kings. And the other person will flip their hand over, and they've got like ace 4. Not a really wise hand to go all in, but the other 5 cards come out, and an ace hits on the flop. Guess what? Your pocket kings aren't worth shit. They ain't worth shit. They just lost. Or if, let's say they've got deuce 7, which is notoriously the worst hand you could possibly have, a 2 and a 7. We'll even say 2 and a 7 unsuited, right? Against pocket kings, all in. The flop comes. What if two deuces come up? What if a deuce and a 7 come up? Your pocket kings ain't worth shit. But you were so cocky, you were so confident that you had it all worked out, that you did not see the possibilities that were there. So it's important for us to understand these things. Start thinking about the things in your life, man. Think about things you run into. When you start feeling that you may be making an emotional decision, I just want you to keep in your head. I want you to say to yourself, frozen lake. I've already told people I'm going to do it now just as a reminder for myself. I'm going to print out a picture, probably about a card-sized picture of a frozen lake. And whenever I go and play cards, that picture's going to be sitting next to me the entire time. That picture of a frozen lake. Just so I remember it. Just so I remember it. But if you think about, I remember hearing about people in relationships, and you guys know all this too. You've seen this before. People in relationships, they will be in a complete and utter shitstorm of relationship, and everybody around them can see that it's a shitstorm. But man, they want it to work so bad. I just want to settle down. I just want to be a family man. I just want everything to work out great. I want this to work so bad. But at the same time, all they're surrounded by is destruction. And the signs are there. Everybody else can see it. Trust me, you can see it too. But you refuse to. I've had many, many talks with brothers about this. Many talks. Some of them unheated. Some of them have been heated. But there's also been some decisions that they've had to live with as well. And that's the important thing. Especially, I've learned that with poker as well. You can have your outburst when some shit like that happens, but at the end of the day, the decision you make is your decision. It's your decision. And you have to live with it. So I think that's an important aspect of this too. It's the same as, when I say frozen lake, man, everybody's going to walk out on one. You probably have. You may walk out on one tomorrow. Everybody's going to walk out on a frozen lake at some point in their life. And a decision's going to have to be made. How far have you walked away from the shore? How far? How far have you walked out there? That's the difference between living and death, right? Do you still have a lifeline? Do you still have a way to get back? Or are you just going to keep walking deeper and deeper and deeper till there's no way you're going to get out? Either way, you have to make a decision. You have to live with that decision. Whatever decision may come, well, you're going to have to decide what to do after the fact. Are you going to die? Let's say you fall in your frozen lake. What are you going to do? You're going to die? You're just going to sit there and wait for death to take you? Or are you going to fight? You're going to crawl out of that hole? Or are you going to try and pull yourself up on a big block of fucking ice? Or you're just going to get swept away by the current? What's it going to be? It's up to you. You going to die? I mean, that's an option. It's probably the easiest option you got is to die. Or you can fight. You can crawl that hole, whatever it may be. Whether it's losing in a big hand, whether it's you failed at getting your promotion, whether it's you fucked up in a relationship decision, and now you're sinking. What are you gonna do? You're just gonna stay there? You're gonna stay there and die? Or are you going to make moves? We've always, since show number one, I have talked to people about making necessary moves and adjustment to put themselves in the right place. Yes, the frozen lake can put you in a hole, but what the fuck are you going to do about it when you get there? That's what you need to ask yourself right now. Because as much as I would like to be the voice that you hear that tells you what to do, I can't tell you that. You have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to fight? Or are you going to die? Choice is yours. Alright, my fellow barbarians, I'm going to wrap this show up. I enjoyed the hell out of doing this show. I hope you did as well. So we're going to wrap it up here. So now, my fellow barbarians, this broadcast of the Barbarian Lounge is closed.